Welcome to the Chasing Ebenezer Show. This is a show where we talk about stuff, play you some music, and encourage you to be creative. This season, we are exploring the art of being human. We want to say thank you to our patrons who support us each month. If you want to know more about that, visit us on patreon.com/Chasing Ebenezer. For more information about our musical endeavors, visit chasingebenezer.com. We hope you enjoy the show. Well, we're a little late to the game, but happy 2022, everybody.
From COVID
survivors here. Welcome to the Chasing Ebenezer Show. We are super glad to be filming again after almost a month. Between Christmas and us getting sick, it kind of derailed things. I'm sure you've experienced your own level of derailment and your goals are not going according to plan this year. So we're here to encourage you and say it's okay and you're not alone.
I told Benjamin here that, we're just going to pretend that January 1st was this week. So we're just changing our
calendar's just a little
mental
okay.
calendar change.
We want to say thank you to all of our patrons who support us each month. We are going to begin the process of recording a new album this year.
The ideas are
circulating.
Drafting,
and so we will keep you posted on that. But your support means everything. It helps us financially. And it helps us emotionally because, let's just be honest, it's hard to be a creative for a living. It just is. But we're grateful for you, and you make that so much fun for us. So I've got a few things that I'm excited about. The first thing I can just announce is that we got booked to play at McMiniman's Edgefield, which for us, if you live in Portland, that place is awesome. They have all kinds of concerts each year. We're playing on St. Patrick's Day, our full band, at Edgefield at 5:30, which is a great slot. Please, if you're in the area, come out. If you love us enough to come from out of the area, do that. It'd be fun. But I'm really excited about that. That's kind of a fun thing for me. And I got a new instrument. Got a little frame drum here. Sounds pretty fun. I don't know how to play it really well yet, but I learned how to do this thing.
Very nice.
In it, but you have the low tone too.
The frequency, I'm right here. Yes.
So
I
anyway,
can feel that in my.
I know. I love it. I love it. Drumming has been something that's helped my mental health, my spiritual health, and it's just good all around. So I'm excited about learning how to play that a little bit better. What are you excited about?
Well, I am excited to be getting better. I mean, shoot, this could be a long journey of getting better. We just don't know overall, but I'm glad to be able to do some normal things, to do things
used to do.
And everything, kind of got bumped. So I'm really excited because I got to take my niece to see Sing 2. We were supposed to go, and then we got sick. My mom loved the original Sing, so I just like taking my niece and nephew out to the movies. So we get to do that. So just really fun to do that with her. And that's good. That's good enough.
That's good enough. More than enough. I think you and I are going to have the same answer how we experienced our humanity the past week.
It's probably the same.
Yeah. So, as most of you who follow along our socials know, we both got COVID, and thankfully, I think we were vaccinated, we were boosted, and the symptoms themselves could have been way worse. I mean, for me, it just felt like one of those colds that put me down for the count. But where I've been really feeling it is in the need to take naps, and I'm already a napper. I mean, that's like a hobby of mine. But I've needed to take naps like almost every day for the past 2 weeks. I might need to take one after filming this. So
just
that's
the exhaustion that just seems
So
unmatched. So
it's like I walk to the couch. I need a break.
It's true. It's true.
What about you?
Well, yeah, same thing. And I think it's really humbling. We like to think and we've discussed this before, that we're able to be almost robot-like. And so feeling that humanity, that even though we've really tried, not perfectly, but we have tried this whole time to be safe, to follow medical guidelines, and still we got it. And so it's a very humbling experience when you are not superhuman. And so, yeah, it's very humbling. I will say that part of my humanity, though, is even though I'm super emotional and I get super down, there's still this, I'm not gonna get taken down by this. I'm not gonna stop. So there was a lot of stuff we couldn't do, lost a lot of regular work stuff, but it's like if I don't have to move, if I can sit, then I'm good. So I started making coloring sheets for the kids at my church and any kids of all ages who want to. So I'll have another one out this week, and you can get them on my website.
What's that?
It's COVID. These bohemiandays.com. Bohemiandays.com. You can print those off there. And so that's been a way to connect, try to connect too with the kids from
adults.
Our church.
We also know that coloring books are for you too.
So yes, I'm trying to put one out every week, a new coloring sheet. I'm learning a lot. And so that's kind of what I use some of my time for, was learning how to do some of these things, and I'm still learning. And then I was planning to do one last major edit of my book before I start sending it out to agents. Well, I got that done in a week because I couldn't pretty much do anything else. So that's that part of me is like, I'm not going to get taken down by this thing. I'm going to do something. So, maybe that's not always a healthy thing.
So let me tell you what I got done while being sick with COVID. What did you get done? I watched the entire 3rd season of Fargo. I watched the entire documentary series of Sasquatch. I got through almost the 4th season. I watched a lot of TV.
Well, I did too. I'm usually always doing something while I'm watching movies or TV. So I watched lots of Downton Abbey.
You did.
Yeah. So, I accomplished a lot of that as well.
I was even able to read a little bit more. I'm reading Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. For anyone who's not watched the Amazon series is pretty good. And the books are long. Really long books. So I made a bigger dent in the second book while I was sick. So anyway, yeah, as we were kind of thinking through what to talk about for this show, we decided to talk about curiosity, because to be human is to be curious.
And we were also watching some of Ted Lasso while we were in bed and sick. So, Ted, that's so true. Much of Ted Lasso is, his character is coming from not judgment, but curiosity. I think he quotes Walt Whitman. Yep. And so I started even thinking about it. Like, what is the difference between being suspicious and judgmental versus being curious? And so I think that we're healthier human beings when we show curiosity. You've taught me a lot about. It's hard to talk. It's really hard to talk, and I'm just gonna say that it's a side effect of COVID.
You're gonna be able to blame everything that happens
forever,
to you.
For the rest of my life.
It's COVID. I went to Victor Rico's. It's because of COVID.
Here, interesting fact that we didn't, I don't know how interesting it is. We didn't lose did you lose your sense of smell? You didn't really, did you?
Not really.
I didn't. So it didn't affect my appetite at all, really. No. So, yeah, there was no weight loss for me during COVID. It was more like, give me all the bad food. I think I haven't had any since like Sunday, I think. But during COVID, I think I drank like
an ungodly amount
of
Diet
Zero.
Coke Zero. Yeah.
So I gave myself permission.
Our kitchen looked like a warehouse. The number one thing that was stocked in our house wasn't vitamins, wasn't orange juice. It was Coke Zero.
Coke Zero. So I have walked away from it now. This is the first week of January, right?
That's right. New Year's resolutions. All right. So we're going to talk about curiosity. Here we go. So as a kid, I remember being really, really curious about my backyard. Where I grew up, I had like this, it was like we had like this really short backyard, and then it dipped off into this wooded area that led to a creek somewhere. And as a kid, I always imagined that this creek would lead to like imaginary places. Like I always used to think maybe Narnia is in the creek somewhere. So I remember my friend and I going to the creek and going upstream. And as a kid, you don't know the nature of landscape or neighborhood or anything like that. And we walked and we walked and we walked, and my shoes got so muddy. I got so messy, but ended up just, at a pond and just being like, wow, that's the farthest I've ever gone. And it was so cool. And then
I journeyed for
my
days
parents were
and
not
days.
thrilled about the fact that my shoes got totally nasty. But I was always fascinated by stuff in the outdoors. I was fascinated, and my mom even tells me this, I was fascinated by things that scare me.
Oh, okay.
I watched Jaws when I was 6 because I was curious about sharks all the time. I was the kid that would go to the school library back when the Dewey Decimal System was on those little file cards a long time ago. And I would check out books on tornadoes just so I could see pictures. So all that kind of stuff always like fascinated me and made me curious to learn. What were some things that fascinated you?
There's 2 things that I can think of that come to mind. Is one of them, I was fascinated with King Arthur and knights and castles, that kind of thing. I think my 2nd grade teacher, Miss Lambert, started reading us, and it was just, I don't know, I just never had really spent a lot of time, and it was just so fascinating to me. And so, and to this day, I still just love any, fairy tales, that kind of thing. And the other thing that fascinated me was adults. I honestly was more interested in spending time with adults than my peers. I didn't really feel like I fit in with peers, for one, but I wanted to understand the world of adults and why they did what they did and rationale. I mean, I wanted to be an adult probably earlier than was healthier too, but
Sure.
Grown-ups, there was something about them that I wanted to understand. And I confess, I was such an eavesdropper. Maybe that's kind of the writer in me too, is always like, now here's the thing though. I know when to walk away from eavesdropping if it's not good. So I do have a conscience.
Obviously, it's when the topic is boring. That's when you stop eavesdropping, right?
But I do have like a check and be like, oh, I shouldn't be listening to this. So
this isn't for your ears.
Yeah, this is not.
Right.
So I do have like a regulator, but I definitely am a people watcher. And so, yeah, I hadn't thought about it till now to ask that. So that was a good question as a kid. But yeah, the world of adults and why they were doing or what is different about them than us kids. So.
And isn't it interesting that like we're like that as kids? Because I think every kid wants the rights of an adult.
Yes.
We want to be treated as adults.
Right.
But then by the time we become adults, we're still trying to figure out why we act the way we do.
I'm in therapy for a reason.
And then we look back on kids and be like, okay, help me understand.
Let me be like you. I want to be like you.
Yeah, exactly. And
like,
the roles reverse.
Yeah,
it's so interesting how that happens.
Man.
Yeah, but curiosity is there's good curiosity, right? And then there's bad curiosity.
Yes, sometimes you can open Pandora's box and the lid doesn't go back on.
Right.
So, yeah.
But like curiosity is usually asking the question is what if, and what would happen if. I think about those two kind of questions. I remember a moment a few years ago. I had to get up early and I was driving over a bridge over the ocean because we were staying somewhere. We were staying at that South Beach. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I was driving.
I'm not interested. Boring.
Yeah, no, you stopped eavesdropping a long time ago. I was driving over and I remember thinking to myself, oh, I know there's this type of fish, and this type of fish in the ocean. And I was like, well, what was it like before we had categories for everything? It was like...
It was just fish?
It was... Or there were sea monsters. We would say there's sea monsters. There were all kinds of unknown things in the ocean because we didn't have names for them.
You mean before, like, we said sharks or...
Right. There were
okay.
beasts. There were things of mythology. Okay. And thinking about what what a much more interesting world that probably was.
You mean, like the more you know, the less amazing it can be.
Well, it's the difference. Yeah, it's like, I think about the story in the Bible where we're going to just go all over the place. It's okay. Where God brings the animals to Adam to see what he would name them. And if you think about it, do we name things to give our best understanding of the depth of what those things are, or do we name things to tame them and control them? You know what I mean? It's like sometimes we'll name stuff and categorize stuff so that way we don't have to think deeply about it, we don't have to deal with it, and we don't have to be scared of it anymore. And we lose something when we do that sometimes. I'm not saying we should like rename all the fish or anything. You can, but I wouldn't recommend it. Am I making sense?
Yeah, well, because there's the scientific classification of names that we have, but then we also give them regular names too. Right. So, yeah, especially if you're naming a pet or a child or whatever, so many people, they want to have the name carry a reflection of either who they want the person to be or what they wish for them or embody the spirit of it versus, oh, you're just in this box or this box and this box.
Right. And like we give people multiple names, right? I mean, our cat Mowgli has many names.
We're not going to say some of them on
No. But those names come from a place of relationship. They come from a place of discovery.
The more you know someone, the more nicknames they tend to have.
And they come from a place of experiences.
Yeah.
Of life done. So that's what I mean. It's like I can name Mowgli the feline or whatever the scientific name is, or here's Heidi Homo sapien. And that's fine, but that's not who you are.
Oh, it's barely scratched the surface.
You're so much more than a Homo sapien. So much more.
Oh.
Yeah, but like curiosity helps people move forward. If you're not curious, you don't invent things, you don't explore things. So
you stagnate.
Yep,
for sure.
Yeah. So what do you think are some things that hinder us from being curious?
I think fear, for sure.
Okay,
fear for sure.
Maybe say a little bit
more? Yeah, I mean, I tend to be I don't like to walk in the dark by myself, things like that. So exploring the physical safety can be one of them. Mm-hmm. We don't want to put ourselves in danger, so we'll hold back. And not that you want to be careless.
There's certainly wisdom in that.
Sure, but I think fear can, like when we went snorkeling. Oh. I almost didn't continue because I was starting to panic and I was so fearful. But it was like, okay, when I get back home, am I going to regret that I didn't do this? And I did. But I was very afraid. But I was like, I got to see this. But okay, one example is when we are curious about someone whose opinions are different than we are. Mm. It can be a very scary, vulnerable thing to ask another person to explain why they believe what they believe, because we're then inviting ourselves potentially to change our mind. Yes. And changing your mind can often mean you have to acknowledge that you were wrong or that you misunderstood something you had never thought about it that way, and it can cost something. And we as humans don't like to do that. We want we don't like being uncomfortable. We don't having to say, oh, I shouldn't have voted that way, or I shouldn't have thought that belief, or I stereotyped all these things. So I think, and that's often related to shame and guilt. But if we don't have enough grace to be curious ourselves, then we can't extend that grace to someone else. So I think we've got to become better at, if curiosity leads to information that causes us to change our mind or change our path, we have to learn how to extend grace for ourselves and others and and it's really hard for me to do. It's very, very difficult. So I'm saying this as someone who at times it's more comfortable to do the same thing, even if it's the wrong or the not the best thing.
Right.
But then again, it doesn't bring life and bring growth. That was a lot of thoughts, I know.
That was really good.
I'm so deep.
I'm just
so deep.
One of the things I was thinking about this morning and kind of thinking about this conversation was the word prejudice. And we assign the word prejudice to talk about racism, and it absolutely covers that. But prejudice means to prejudge something.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I think sometimes we do that because we're afraid. And I think if we're intellectually honest, we're lazy. We're lazy. It is easy for me to put a tagline over an issue and have a one-dimensional answer to something or a person than it is for me to recognize that people and issues are complicated. We live near a bunch of different mountains in the Northwest. You know, we have Mount Hood, we have Mount St. Helens, we have Mount Adams, and those mountains have all kinds of different viewpoints. But they're all one, but you just see different things depending on where you're standing. And it takes,
very deep.
Yeah. I learned that from Aaron Strumpel, who's an amazing singer-songwriter. Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
Love you, dude. And he was talking about that with the church. It's like all the different churches, which churches tend to isolate themselves and say, we have the right way, and this other church doesn't. And we can be kind of prejudiced that way. But he had this view of like, oh man, I'm just seeing different views of the mountain, from the mountain. And I just thought, wow, that's such a beautiful way. And that applies to so many different areas in life. So I think prejudice hinders our
yeah, for sure.
curiosity. Yeah. And pride. Pride does. Because it's if we think we have it all figured out, then we're not going to ask any more questions.
True. And I think just as well, whatever environment we were raised in, we're raised, most of us, that this is the way things are. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's ignorance that we don't realize there might be another way to view things. Like, it's ignorance for you to not believe that Singing in the Rain is the best movie in the whole wide world.
I was going to get to musicals in a
sec. Well, there's always time for musicals.
So, connecting to musicals just a little bit, one of the other things I think that can hinder curiosity is the fact that we're just all biologically, emotionally wired to be naturally drawn to different things. We just are.
Or nurturedly. Yeah. Nurturedly.
I can't do that with musicals, though, because my parents liked musicals.
So there's just something wrong with
There's just something wrong with me. So, and my natural default is to like roll my eyes and be like, oh, that's stupid. Which is wrong and shuts down conversation and relationship.
It sure does.
So, I'm going to practice what I preach here.
So we're going to use musical preferences as an example.
As an example,
okay.
Right?
Okay, you're not going to judge or be suspicious of me like there's something dark and devious about me.
Well, here's the thing. Don Miller, in his book, Blue Like Jazz, basically said, I'm pretty sure, that he learned how to like jazz by hearing it through his friend's eyes, like learning from his friends. So I'm not going to come out of this a diehard musical fan. Maybe I will. Who knows?
Who knows?
But I want to hear from you why you were drawn to musicals.
Okay.
I'm ready.
You have an hour? Okay. Well, I think the basic is just my mother loved musicals, so we just were always watching them. So it's a part of my childhood. I think that I love music, and so there's and I love movies. So you combine the two loves into one. Oh, gravy, that's good. Vegan mushroom gravy, of course. And,
for some of us.
Color. In general, musicals are full of color. The costumes and the sets. Or if you go to the theater, well, then you should. Now, not every musical. Fiddler on the Roof, for example, that's coming from a very different aesthetic. But there's usually it's a visual experience. The sets are just often very sometimes they're over the top. There's dancing too. Music, dancing, movie, or theater. I mean, there's just all these amazing, how can you not love them? I mean, there's just so many options. And then once you know the words, you can participate by singing along. So you become part of the experience because you know the words, and then you can watch it or go to the theater with someone else. So there's kind of this participation that other movies don't have or plays don't have. But when it's a musical, you're able to then join in on it.
Wow.
I just figured that out right now. That was
impressed.
me being curious about why I love musicals.
Well, one of the things that I took from that conversation, other than you like musicals, is I never noticed the color side of it before.
So, I mean, not everyone.
So I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to that next time I'm forced to watch a musical. So, yeah. Well, okay. Last thing that we saw in the theater before COVID, before the world changed, was Cats.
Okay.
I'm not knocking Cats. I'm saying that was...
You know...
There was a lot of color in that.
There was a lot of color. You know, I'm very careful to critique art in general of others.
I wasn't saying it as a critique.
Here's what I'll say is Jennifer Hudson's I mean, it doesn't matter what Jennifer Hudson sings.
Oh, she killed it.
That memory, I mean, so yes, there's a whole other spectrum of things about the movie. You know, I've never actually seen the theater version, but yes.
Yeah, well, so for me, musicals like with Les Mis.
Yes.
When that came out, I loved it.
You loved that.
I loved it, and I think some of it was because of the story.
But yeah, the story
was so compelling, and it felt like it was live in the way that it was recorded.
Yeah, because I think they did.
So those were things that I know I really resonated with, but I have to be a little more open to that. I know what I've struggled with. Is the level of just
singing randomly,
and it's all super happy.
But see, and not
for me,
sure,
it feels like super happy.
Sure.
And that's because I have issues. But like having that kind of a conversation, I have new things to pay attention to next time I'm watching a musical, which is really helpful.
Yeah, and musicals have evolved as well. Mm-hmm. So
when it comes to music, I'm a snob.
Yeah, you are,
and that's big.
And you're allowed to be, as long as you're not rude to others about it.
Right, which is what I'm learning. But like one genre that I never really quite got into was pop and hip hop until recent years, because artists that I like were talking about why they liked certain artists. Like John Butler released his last album a few years ago, and he talked about two bands that were more pop bands, like Little Dragon and Milky Chance. Two great bands, which you should listen to, by the way. But all of a sudden, it gave me permission to like electronic instruments, which there was this prejudice of like, that's not real music. And I'm listening to it, I'm like, no, actually, this is very real music. So relationship really gives you permission to kind of explore things you wouldn't naturally do on your own.
And if you think about it, our family of origin are our first relationships, generally speaking, not 100% of the time. So we kind of, we're the people who raise us, they're showing us what they like. And so it can feel like if you start to branch out from that, it can feel like you're doing something wrong or rebellious. Like you're betraying a tribe. Yeah. And so that's something that we have to do, that we need to be aware of, is that there's a difference between preferences versus right and wrong. Absolutely. Especially with arts and discovery, that kind of thing. We just have to be careful how we're communicating about it.
I agree.
Food is a huge one too.
Oh man.
See, I am so open to food. Like, there's very few things that I won't try at least once.
That's true.
But not everyone's that way. Some people, they know what they like and they don't want to try anything else. So, which way? You're pretty open.
It depends on the day. And it also depends on how hungry I am.
The hungrier you get, the pickier you get.
I am terrible. Yeah.
But that's you know.
But you've helped me. I enjoy Thai food. I enjoy Mediterranean food. And it's like, oh man, all this stuff that I didn't know I like. Now I still do not like pizza with pineapple on it. I could make a case for why it's wrong, but I won't.
I'm curious. Tell me what it is you hate about pineapple on pizza.
It's real simple. I am a salt person.
That's not. You think you are.
I don't like salt and sweet worlds to always collide. And I don't like to have to always, when I'm hungry, I don't want to expand my imagination or broaden my horizons to enjoy food. Sometimes. But I don't tend to prefer pizza with pineapple on it. But that's just me. Anyway, moving on.
That was an example.
That was just
Those
an example.
Gang. You
can still maintain your own opinion.
Of course.
But just be receptive to the opinions of others.
What's wrong with you? Or what kind of person would like? Those are not helpful. Those are shaming
Those are shaming questions.
Yes.
One of my closest friends, Ramsey El Shadid, has helped me love hip hop more because he loves hip hop and he kind of gives me context to some of these artists. He gives me backstory, and I hear hip hop in a whole new way now, and it really has broadened my horizon. He also argues with me about why certain movies aren't actually good movies, and because I value him as a friend, I won't say which movies he names as potentially bad movies.
We're very reluctant to critique art.
But you know what? Dang it. I jokingly said to him the other day, I'm not going to say you're right, but I am going to say that you're not wrong.
It is. It's hard for you to say you agree with people.
I don't disagree with that. Oh, wow.
So, I will just say that you, Mr. Person here, who are you again? That you have helped me broaden my music because the first time, you know this. Don't even act like you're trying to act all like scripted here. No, that is not true. Yes, because the first time I visited your dorm in college, you opened this massive book of CDs out. I mean, it was one of those massive things, and you really wanted to show me your favorite music, and it was just very sweet. So yeah.
I helped you.
Oh, thank you, because I was so weak in my music understanding.
And you've helped me. Helped me. So.
Yes.
So for people wanting to get started on maybe we all can afford to grow in curiosity.
And here comes a curious cat.
Wow.
I didn't want people to think I was just making funny signals with the air. Keep going.
So we all can afford to grow. Some of us, it's like we feel like being curious is something that we grow out of, and there's things in our life that we're interested in that we don't explore. This is an invitation to start exploring some of those things. And there's some things that you're just closed off to, like me in musicals, that, you know what, you could afford to maybe give it a chance. So here's some prompts for you. I'm going to give a few, maybe you'll have a couple, is listen to a different genre of music than you normally listen to. Okay? If you're a person that likes hard rock, try jazz, try classical. Okay? I'll make this commitment. I do not tend to listen to country music. I will listen to a country album this week. And not to prove why you were right in not listening to it in the first place, but for the purpose of identify one thing that you learned from listening to that you liked that you didn't expect to like. Okay? So maybe you listen to a heavy metal album this week. You don't have to make that. So
Here, we'll listen to the little purrs of Punky. I don't know if you can hear her in the microphone there. She's pretty loud when she purrs. Okay, yeah. And if you're not a cat person, be curious about them.
Instagram is full of resources.
So many opportunities
to make you love cats. So that's one prompt. The other one is make a list of things that you were curious about as a kid that you never
that's
explored.
Cool. That's a good idea.
Julie Cameron, in her book, The Artist's Way, kind of does this exercise called Other Lives, where you kind of write down what were things you wanted to do that you never explored.
That's a cool idea.
So this might be a really great way for you to maybe open up on some areas that you didn't. One thing that I went back to that I stopped as a young person was I read comic books now. almost every night. My brother-in-law got me a 1-year subscription to DC Infinite, which means all the DC comics. And I've been reading them every night, and it's been wonderful for me. I've loved it. So yeah, go back and explore a few of those things. Do you have anything?
Well, one of my favorite shows as a kid was Curious George, reading the books. So, I know they've made new movies since then. So, why not just enjoy being a kid? Pick one of those and just enjoy it. And, I had another one earlier and I forgot what it was. Okay. This could be a really difficult one.
Okay.
It could be a really difficult one. So you got to make sure, but.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Well, I think, culturally, we are so divided, and if you're wanting to be a peacemaker, if you're wanting to be part of healing so much of the division, why not, if you have a friend or an acquaintance who is very different than you politically or theologically or on some major issues, why not invite them out, and just not from a place of, you need to tell me what, but I want to hear why you voted this way or why you believe this, and really so they can understand, because a lot of times people have not come to the conclusions they've had for the reasons we think.
Yeah, that's
and so
very
it can
true.
be, you want to be in a really open place, a teachable place as a learner, and not as there to correct but just from a curiosity place, a humble place. So that might be, it could be hard though.
Yep.
But
Yep.
You can do it.
I think that's a great prompt. It's a great challenge. So the song that we're going to do is a song that we recorded through Local Roots and CCTV in Salem. This was a few years ago, and it's a song off of our latest release. It's called Angels and Monsters, and it's an invitation to be curious and see the world differently. And so here is our full band playing Angels and Monsters.
And a special shout out to our nephew Malcolm. This is his favorite song that we do. So
enjoy. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.
All around the sky I see blue open space. Clouds form above me, what are they saying with their shapes? Fly high above the atmosphere. Let your world become large, your vision will be clear. Dust and mist, dry bones you have kissed, but time made us forget what we knew as kids. Life's more than what we can see, destiny hiding in dreams, angels and monsters pushing conspiracies. Down your narrow mind, you don't know it all. You could measure time and space, but never map my soul. It's time to become friends with mystery. Close your eyes, become a child, and then you'll finally see. Dust and mist, dry bones you had kissed, but time made us forget what we knew as kids. mind. It sees how things could be.